What if the future of sustainability isn't about sacrificing performance, but about engineering smarter systems that save energy, reduce emissions, and actually improve how we live and work? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we sit down with the visionaries transforming how the world builds, powers, and innovates. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar, and today I'm speaking with Lisa Roy, CEO and President of Optimum Energy, a company leading the charge in holistic energy infrastructure, from initial engineering and construction to ongoing maintenance, asset management, and energy as a service offerings. With over 30 years at the forefront of global sustainability and building technology, most recently as a senior executive at Johnson Controls, Lisa now heads Optimum Energy, where her team helps organizations around the world reduce their carbon footprint, increase reliability, and achieve measurable savings through cutting-edge technology and engineering expertise. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited about our interview. I know you've spent many decades, like 3 decades, leading in one of the world's most transformative industries. What first drew you into the world of energy and building systems?
Yes, I've been around for 3 decades. It's hard to imagine, but I actually have an electrical engineering degree with a computer science focus. So early on in college, I was attracted to programming and learned 5 different languages. So when I went into the working world, one of my first jobs was programming buildings. So building automation systems, being able to control large central plants and buildings that run hospitals, that run university campuses, and large office buildings. I was pretty excited about the ability to help those kind of large entities be able to maximize efficiency and reduce their energy cost. And as I engaged with the leaders that ran those businesses, whether it's the VP of operations for a healthcare institution or a campus leader on a university campus, I was just mesmerized that these very, very powerful leaders in these really successful companies looked at their facilities like a black hole. Like they didn't understand and didn't have the know-how to be able to extract efficiency, to be able to lower their energy cost. So to be able to provide that for them, I thought was really great and exciting, and work collaboratively with them to create an environment that allows them to enable their mission just got me very excited early on.
Yeah. So just working with the large companies and just realizing that gap, you just saw an opportunity where you could help and make the biggest difference. Now, looking back on your early career, what experiences most shaped your leadership philosophy, would you say?
So I've had the great opportunity to do a number of different roles. I worked for a big corporation, and I actually only applied for the first job that I got there. The others, I was tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we have this great opportunity." And the one that comes to mind that was the most meaningful and painful in other ways was one that came to me that when it first was brought to me, I wasn't necessarily excited about it, and it was because it was a disaster. It was Hurricane Katrina.
Oh,
Yeah, it was, a horrible time for the community in Louisiana and Mississippi, for the people, for shoot the country. It was a very devastating event.
yeah.
And in addition to that, many businesses were going out of business, not able to conduct business. And so people, were really struggling. The corporation that I worked for had about $100 million business across Louisiana and Mississippi. And the type of work that we did at the time was for big commercial buildings, so healthcare and higher ed institutions, and really the government buildings around that area. We did construction work, and we also did service work. Well, none of these buildings were open right after the storm. So just days after the storm, I was asked to be part of our leadership team to help kind of save the business, kind of keep the business afloat, if you will, during this post-catastrophe time. I agreed to do the assignment thinking, I had a long history in operations and sales, but I wanted to learn general management, and I would work in that team and learn the financials of the business. And I will tell you, Leanne, I learned all kinds of stuff way more important than that. And one of the things was when I got into it, the general manager, the one that was kind of over the entire thing that I worked for, said, "Yes, I'll teach you the financials, Lisa, but that's really easy. We have a bigger problem in the sense that our customers' buildings aren't open. We have employees that have been displaced. So
Right.
we have to get our employees and take care of them. And then you need to go figure out how to sell us work. And so we actually opened like a trailer park. We rallied the company to send resources. So we closed the employees. We found them a place to live, and we really put our arms around the employee base in that area. And
Hmm.
then we went to the customers who were just as disoriented, who were basically trying to get their facilities back open. So they needed things like survey my building, help me clean it up, give me a generator. And so we deployed our employee base doing those kinds of things who weren't trained to do those kinds of things. They were like skilled engineers and were really educated to do something very different. But it was almost like a rally of, hey, we can help our customers in this difficult time as long as they were taken care of, the employees were.
Right.
That it turned into a remarkable human experience as well as a business one. And what I learned is, hey, we're a service company and our product is actually our people. So when we took care of them, we had a product like that nobody else in the area had, because they had it thought to do that. And when you look back on the experience from a business perspective, we beat the financial targets from
Wow.
prior to the storm. So
Yeah.
it was a leadership learning experience in that, our people, is our product, and that if you take care of your employees, you in turn take care of your customers.
Right. No, I love that. But I think in turn, it probably developed a stronger culture
Yeah.
and created a sense of like loyalty with your customer base as well. And so just by nurturing your employees, they in turn nurture your customer base and it just a win-win situation all the way around. Yeah, and it's
100.
still using their skills though, I mean, because it's problem solving. I mean, it's a different set of problems probably than they're used to, but it's still getting creative and innovative on how to tackle a big problem, that their customers are facing.
100%. And, one of the things too was the leadership team in that corporation said, you have the highest retention rate. Like, how is that possible in a disaster area where most people were moving out of the state, like and
Mhm.
permanently displaced? So it was confusing to them.
Yeah.
What we experienced, to your point, was a higher sense of loyalty, both from the employee perspective and the customer. So
Yeah,
pretty
right.
remarkable.
Just a deeper relationship probably was nurtured from that regard. Now, you've held roles spanning engineering, M&A, strategy, and operations. How has that breadth of experience prepared you for your role as CEO and president at Optimum Energy?
Yeah, I think one of the main trajectories for Optimum Energy is that we've expanded our offerings. So the company was built on a very advanced patent technology in the building and energy space. And just because our customers have engaged us more in the design process and getting us to help them with the build and the actual implementation of some of the solutions that we designed before. And then now we're even offering some different financial solutions. So my background in like building energy assets and building projects over the 30 years has been a really strong fit for that expansion of the offerings for Optimum Energy. In addition, like I worked a lot with the same type of customers in those 30 years. So when you talk about healthcare and manufacturing institutions and global kind of Fortune 50 customers and higher ed institutions. So I feel like I have a deep understanding of those customer needs and some of the buying um, challenges that they might have, that I'm able to bring that to help support the team. And then maybe finally, and most importantly, one of the things is just my passion for building technology. It started early, and through the decades that I've been in this industry, it has evolved so quickly and so differently. Where some of the building automation systems and programming that I started, right out of college, those things are more standardized across the industry today.
Yeah,
And now, with so much data available and the power of machine learning, you can do so much more with that information that can help customers even more than we ever have before. So just I'm very, very passionate about that topic. The
yeah,
other probably final point I'd make on that is Optimum is growing very, very quickly. So we're building out a team both organically. So because I've been in the industry a while, I know a lot of folks in the industry and they want to play on a team that has a vision that's up and coming and growing, and also inorganically. So the last role that I had in that my big corporation, I bought like 25 companies. So that process around mergers and acquisitions and integration, there's a lot of learning in that I had the experience of, a lot of it tough learnings that I
Yeah.
think makes me very much more focused on discerning the right fit for Optimum. So making sure that the partners we choose, that may become, permanent components of our organization, that not only are we looking at their skills and their experience, but the culture. Does it
So there's
fit?
a alignment, yeah, a really, good alignment culturally. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and you can tell.
Mhm.
There's a couple of folks that we're working with today that I think would be a great, venture with the Optimum team, and it's very natural. Like the leadership team, like the minute we get in a room, we talk and we spend more time than we even allocate because we're brainstorming and we're trying to figure out new ways to do things and new ways to deliver customer value, and that just makes it fun for everybody.
Right, and that kind of synergy, I think it's just exponential with the opportunity for new ideas and growth, and what does it mean to you personally to lead a company whose mission is not just growth, but sustainability at scale?
One of the things that attracted me to Optimum from the beginning was the team. A very smart team, engineering focus, or a lot on software focus, customer oriented team, but very curious. Like one of the things that I think is just common for our organization is that they're open to a better way to do anything. And I think that curiosity, it spurs innovation, but it also spurs the idea of collaboration, like, hey, somebody else might have a better idea. So I think that spirit allows for looking at problems differently, and that's where you come up with new ways to do things, and that's where innovation comes from. But it helps to drive that collaborative spirit and the fact that you can work together. Like two minds are better than one, and that spirit allows for a lot of things that we're putting into motion as it relates to growth. So was one of the things that attracted me to the company. And I guess the second part is that what I bring to the team, seeing that when I came on board was, and these guys are hungry, they want to do more for customers. And so being able to lay out a vision and a plan of how to do that is what I thought I brought to the table, and really corral all of this energy into a path that I think we're all on board for. I mean, we're basically looking at, a customer base that we've served for years and saying, hey, we can do more for them. We can create even more value than we have in the past. And the team is really rallied around that thought.
Right. No, I think that is super important to have a strong vision that you bring awareness to, and then having that alignment, and it does excite people and encourage additional innovation and lead the way for more change. How do you help clients achieve their missions?
So we do a lot, but I think the way that I would put it, we make it simple. We try to make it simple. Energy, sustainability, new energy sources. Can you rely on the grid? I mean, these are hard topics, and there's complex decisions that you could make. We try to simplify that as much as we can for our customers. And what we bring to the table is like expertise across a wide variety of areas to help boil down kind of like the options, and then make sure that we understand kind of where the customer wants to go, where they need to go, and understand those limitations or those hurdles to get there. And then we lay out options that make sense and kind of guide them through that decision making with data, like a lot of hard data to help them, and
Yeah.
then make it simple to make choices along the way. I think the other thing that we do that's unique is we're pretty open and flexible about the projects that we do for our customers. So we don't demand that it only be big projects or smaller projects. Like we start that engagement as a relationship that we plan to have for a long time. So we act as an advisor, and what we've noticed is that relationship building, we get pulled in more and more to their plans, whether they're doing a small renovation or they have to expand production somewhere and they need to add more energy, but they have to decarbonize at the same time. That's actually a very difficult problem to solve for. And we're like give it to us. We're all about it. Like, help.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we have a pretty strong retention rate with our customers. It's like 97%. So we're constantly getting deeper and deeper with them in their planning and their deployment of some of their energy projects, which we're very proud of and
Yeah.
excited to do.
Well, and I guess that it speaks to your investment in your customers as well. I mean, just seeing their problems, like large scale, and then just having the open mindedness to bring in new solutions or being innovative around your solutions. And so you're not just stuck with a limited skill set. You're always expanding your offerings because you see the opportunity to bring in new ways to solve problems. Now, Optimum's work consistently delivers measurable improvements in energy use, cost control, and system reliability. How do you help clients think differently about the connection between infrastructure investment, performance, and long-term operational goals?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of the things that we see, and I think most people can relate to this, is in that infrastructure planning phase. And when you go to build something, even if it's a renovation or if it's a brand new greenfield site, a building, hospital, university, campus expansion, there is a lot of focus on that upfront cost, like that capital deployment. You're spending sometimes billions of dollars on a facility that's enabling your mission, right? So makes sense. However, a lot of our clients and people get wrapped up around that first cost, that billions of dollars that's going to be laid out. One of the things that we bring to the table is a lot of data and information around the life cycle cost of that facility. So when customers are deciding, it's going to cost me $200 million and I only planned for 180, I got to cut $20 million out of that project. And it's hard to do that. So they do value engineering is what it's called. We bring information to the table that shows what the actual cost of that facility is over the life of the facility. So you're going to stay in that building for 30
Right.
years. And most people don't realize that the actual cost of that facility, 70% of it is in the life cycle. So you might save $1 up front that costs you $10 later. It's very important to understand that when you're making those decisions in the construction and planning process. So that's probably one of the first things we do
Yeah.
in that phase is we bring forth a lot of data and information to help make informed decisions about those cost cutting measures, making
Okay.
sure you're not cutting something that's going to hurt you later. The second thing is we have a strong emphasis on operations. So our design team not only is are degreed engineers that can stamp drawings and design them, but they operate the same facilities. So they look at design differently. And so we incorporate those KPIs up front in the design process. Here's the cost of running that building from an energy perspective, from an intensity in terms of the operational team serving it, from a replacement. What is all that going to cost? And we set those KPIs in the design phase. And then we work with that client throughout the life of the facility, providing support with our ongoing software, making sure that you meet the KPIs. So it's a holistic approach, kind of end to end around construction and operating that facility to ensure that you're maximizing efficiency and optimizing energy, all of the things that go into it. And probably the last layer that I would put on top of that is making sure that the facility itself enables the mission of the entity. So you're going to design and operate a hospital differently than a higher ed campus, and
Of
even
course.
manufacturing
Right.
facility. So
Yeah.
each one of those entities have different KPIs that the facility is enabling the business mission of that organization. So you're trying to take care of patients. That's a metric we're going to keep in mind when we're thinking of the facility infrastructure supporting it.
Hmm.
Or if you're manufacturing pharmaceutical drugs, it's like uptime and production. And the energy intensity is high, but that's second compared to uptime and production. So those KPIs become part of our KPIs that we embrace as part of the facility enablement of the customer mission. That is like the number one thing.
Hmm.
And understanding that that's the role that we're playing, but also reliably in the way it was supposed to be designed, how it's supposed to operate, making sure that that happens throughout that 30, 40 years.
Right. And you mentioned before, like your customers are long-term customers. It's not just a one-time project, it's a journey when you're partnering with organizations. Can you walk us through what that collaborative process looks like from the early planning and design stages of a major infrastructure like a hospital, like you were saying, through ongoing performance management?
Yeah, great. I'm actually might use an example. It might be better. So, we have a large global manufacturing customer that is a well-known name, but I won't use it. But we've been working with that client for over 10 years. We're in probably every one of their manufacturing facilities. Our software is operating their plants. We've provided them like over $40 million of savings throughout that time. They had a scenario in one of their plants that wasn't inside the US, outside the US, where they wanted to expand production. Like they have a particular drug that's doing really well. They want to expand production at that site. At the same time, they have a decarbonization goal going through the organization. They want to cut carbon 44% at every one of their sites. So think about that. Like, so
Yeah.
we need
Wow.
more energy for more production, but we got
Yeah.
to cut carbon by 44% at the same time. So again, we were like, hey, let's do that. So we worked with them. Probably we had 2 or 3 good options on the table. Again, laid out those options in terms of here's the first cost, here's the operational cost, and here's the impact on carbon. And came up with a solution that was a dramatic change to the existing plant, but also added the capacity of energy that they needed for because they were expanding production. So the energy serving the production process. So added more energy, but changed the fuel source. So they got the decarbonization target. So that was like kind of like the aha moment. Then they asked us to own and operate that asset. So in their thinking, we're going to put our capital toward the production expansion. We don't need to own the thermal energy. That's not even our space. Like
Right.
we make drugs, you make energy. So we're going to build, own, and operate that plant, that new plant, and take that capital expenditure totally off of their books and provide them the thermal and all the thermal sources that they need for the production expansion. So overall, from a life cycle perspective, they're saving money. They were transferring the risk of that operating the energy onto us, which we gladly take. And we're going to operate to a agreed upon set KPIs that they already know we know how to meet because we've been doing it for decades with them at all of their plants.
Yeah.
So kind of a win-win, but I think it's a great example of, hey, here's a problem or an opportunity on the table. We're able to help them solve it, pick the path. Then we did the final design, we did the build, we did the construction. We're going to do the operations, and we're going to own the asset. So we're providing the financing as well.
Yeah. Right. Definitely a win-win situation for and with innovative solution to a problem that like when you first are mentioning it seems like, okay, how are you going to do this? And the efforts are counter what's the word? Like they're opposite of each other.
They're
One,
opposite of each other. Like
yeah,
it's
you're trying to add energy and at the same time reduce the
the
carbon,
carbon.
right?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's different. Well, yeah, and I think many people are facing that today.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Absolutely. I think especially with data centers, to try to support AI and with the massive amounts of data that companies are going to need to process with AI, for example, I mean, that is a big concern too. It's like, how do you
it's a
create
huge concern.
facilities to process this massive amounts of data, but at the same time create a sustainable solution that's not hurting
Right.
the environment?
It's a great point because that's a yet another kind of global trend, happening specifically in a concern for North America is, hey, we've got all these things like decarbonization. We want to save money, but can I trust the grid? I mean, before people, were thinking like, if I'm in a healthcare institution, I want redundancy for myself, but now I can't even depend on the grid. So do I need to make all of my own energy and then sell some back? Like how far do I take that step is probably one of the main questions we get. And then the second is, okay, well, how do I do that energy source? Like, what are the
Right.
options there? So again, the options become even more that are on the table, and how to evaluate those and understand if that's the right choice becomes even harder for an owner or an end user to do, which requires like somebody from the outside providing that support and kind of simplifying options on the table, helping pick a path that makes sense, and then implementing that solution.
Yeah. Now, Lisa, your expertise often becomes a foundation for enterprise-wide transformations for your customers. How do you do that?
And I've mentioned this, I think, throughout our conversation so far, but to me, the secret sauce is expertise. So across the different layers of designing solutions, implementing solutions, and operating that energy asset. So we have experts on the design side, on the software side, on the technical and financial solution side. So if we're going to build on and operate an asset, there's like tax incentives, there's tax credits, there's how does that look from an accounting perspective to the owner. We have the financial expertise on our team, and then we have the operations experts. So bringing all that together in one package to a customer with a lot of great data that comes from our software and our analytics, we're able to lay out what I would call the best options and help a customer design the best solution for them. So it's really about expertise and data is the secret sauce. When we're building out our team and what we're going to bring to our market, that's what we focused on. We focused on bringing the best industry experts across those areas. And when you look at, we were adding up like all of the experience of our team, and it's like billions of dollars of design, billions of dollars of implementation, like building energy assets,
Yeah.
and then billions of dollars of operating facilities. So just a lot of experience on the team, and you add in, good data and software, and we have the makings to come up with the best options and solutions.
Right, and that whole package, it
Yeah.
sounds like, so it makes it very easy to implement, and you're really taking care of your
Yep.
customer all the way around. You've led large teams across global organizations. What do you believe are the keys to inspiring people to embrace innovation and sustainability simultaneously?
I know people need to understand the vision of where we're going as a team. Like, what are we trying to do? How does that impact a customer? So, the vision and the path to that vision, I think, is super important to rally the team around that and have them understand, like, we're trying to help customers do X, Y, and Z. We want to be the best at it. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to build capability here. We're going to expand our products here. We're going to add more capability in certain geographies. And here's the reason why. Like, that plan is super important to clearly articulate to the team. And I think the second thing after that vision and that clarity is, what's each person's role? How can they help? Like, what is their role in helping that team succeed?
Right.
So it's that personal, what are my goals? How does that contribute to the team winning? And how do I know what good looks like for me personally? So to me, that's the second kind of important piece of it. And when you marry the two together, you start to get people rowing in the same direction and working together. Because especially when you bring the team and you say, Lisa's goals are X and John's goals are Y, and here's how they work together. If I understand John's goals, I'll understand more why he's asking me for a certain thing. Or if he's doing something that I don't understand, if I understand what he's, how he's measured, I probably have a better understanding of why he might be behaving or executing a task the way that he is. And I think that alignment across the organization is super important. And it's all got to be tied to customer value. But those goals alignment with the team alignment and how it creates value for a customer, to me, are the kind of the key components of rallying a team around that.
Right. Yeah, and I think if you get role specific, if you go to a specific person and say, "This is how you are making a difference. This is,
Yeah.
how you are contributing to the overall vision," I think that's a lot more motivating, I would think,
It,
as
it
well.
is. And one thing I would add that I probably didn't mention is empowering people. So once there's that clarity around, here's where we're going, here's how each team contributes, here's how you contribute personally, making sure that person has the tools, the knowledge, the collaboration amongst everybody else to be successful, and then letting them do that, like letting them go out a little bit, maybe they fail, that's okay, but letting them actually run and succeed, I think, is just as important. I'm not a fan of, hey, let's tell everybody what to do and how to do it and exactly how to do it and watch them kind of follow
Right.
the marching line. I mean,
Like
that's less
micromanage,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, it's less fun for
Right.
a curious, innovative group, which is what we have.
No, that's awesome. So you give them ownership of their domain and, yeah, empower them to succeed and support them with the resources and encourage them along the way. So I really,
Exactly.
yeah. The energy sector has traditionally been male dominated. What challenges have you faced as a woman leading in the engineering and technology, and how have you turned those challenges into strengths?
It is definitely a male dominated field. Even today, still some rooms that I walk in, I'm still the only woman, which I guess the good news is about that is like I'm easy to remember where everybody else in the room is harder because they're all like in the dark suits doing
That's
whatever else.
true.
So definitely easier to remember. But I do think there is power in women connecting in any industry. And I think it's important. One of the most impactful things I was able to do in my career was at the large corporation I worked for. This was very meaningful because I grew up in a field based office of that company, and probably half of that company is a field based organization. So there's like 120,000 employees. About half of them are like local offices in the major cities across the globe. In any one of those offices, there's likely one woman, maybe two,
Mhm.
maybe mostly one, if there is one. And what we quickly realized was women would go weeks and in their workplace and in their conversations, and they're only talking to the men around them. Like there was no way to collaborate on what you're going through from a gender perspective with
Yeah,
anybody at work. Like, so that was kind of telling. And there tends to be what I call it the good old boy network. Yeah, we can say it doesn't exist. It does.
it
Um,
does. Yeah, I'm in Houston, I understand, yeah.
does. And one of the things that I was fascinated about, like early in my career, is for some reason I was part of the good old boy network. I don't know how I got there, but there was something about my personality that made that okay. But it wasn't for every woman. And there was a point in my career when I looked back at it and I was like, this is not okay. And so myself and about five other women who were like coming up through the ranks at the company decided to start what we called the field-based women's resource network. Now there was a women's resource network for the company that was at corporate, but corporate had like 3,600 people in it. And so I was like 25% women there. So it wasn't the same problem. It wasn't the problem that you go to work for weeks
Right.
and you're the only woman.
Yeah.
So this field-based network became important. And we started in like 2012. And we did it in a way across the US where we established like elite leaders in certain geographic areas, and they would host events. So women like from the different offices would come to one geographic area, and we would have meetings that were virtual, but the folks in the geographic regions were sitting together, and we would do business training. We'd bring in guest speakers. We'd do personal financial training, how to give presentations, how to own a room. I mean, all kinds of interesting topics. And women began to connect within the organization and find people who were in similar roles. Maybe they were like 5 states over, but
Yeah,
created a network that people began to reach out and leverage. And by 2015, the network had 800 women in it. And the corporate office hosted like the leadership of the network. Obviously, they didn't bring all 800, but they'd bring about 100 of the women
yeah.
to the corporate office. The CEO of the company, of like a Fortune 50 company, would speak to them. They'd get to network with some of the biggest executives, and they would hear about the strategy of the organization, some of the big initiatives, and they began to create their own network with some of the high level executives. We even established like a mentor program to help those women like get promoted like through the ranks. It was probably one of the
That's
things I
awesome.
was proudest of,
Yeah.
like to help, bring that collaboration together. And, there's like three of those women that from that original day that started that with me that are still like my very, very good friends.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
know. No, that's a success story for sure, definitely, and I mean, a way to right, if you're remote, if you're working out in field operations and remote sites and you're the only one, it's like that's a way to gain access to other people who are going through the same journey.
Yes, for
Interesting.
sure. And the network was very productive in helping set up like mentor, because what happened on the mentorship, men started jumping in and mentoring women, which was like to me was the heyday, because that broke down the good old boy network, right? Like, so now, because they wanted to be a part of it
Yeah.
and they wanted to participate. I was like, okay, this is great. Um,
Awesome.
yeah. And then the other kind of like win is we were more thoughtful about like company events. Okay. Great with the golf tournaments, but let's be more diversified. And then making sure that the resources were available for things like nursing mothers and stuff that would have never been thought of had we not like created a power source of a voice that
Yeah,
was being heard by corporate.
right. Yeah, so talking about, like, the mentoring and community service, why is it important for industry leaders to model both professional excellence and social responsibility?
Well, I think it's important that companies do it because it's part of most companies' mission. So it's like living by your word. The part that I like the most is when employees tell us they're passionate community service type events, whether it's a organization that they like to donate to, or it's a local community organization that they want to participate in. One of the greatest things that I think is when the company backs that employee base with that community service or that donation, and they're doing it together. So again, you're creating a win for that employee who's important. And again, I tie it back to, if you're satisfying your employees, you're satisfying your customers, and you're supporting something that they're very passionate about. And I think that that's pretty cool. And it's also giving back to the community, which is part of the company mission. So I just think it's a win-win all around.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, just really investing in the employee, in the community, and being true to the word as a company, standing behind what your commitment is for
Right.
social responsibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
As a CEO of a growing company, how do you balance innovation with operational discipline?
So that's an interesting question because, to the point of clarity around goals and metrics and what the company needs to be successful. Whenever those are visible to the team and visible to everybody, I think there's a joint accountability that just naturally happens. So that's where the operational discipline comes in. Is people are going to hold each other accountable. If somebody's off of a target, like, how can I help you get to target, because it helps the whole company? I think that mindset is important to enable success. And when we're doing it that way, it's not about putting a thumb on a team or a person that says, "Oh my gosh, you got to get to that number," which that alone dampens creativity, because then you're like in fight or flight mode. Not, like, how do you survive? So
Yeah.
it's about a supportive organization getting to a target, like holding each other accountable, but a support organization to get to a target. I mean, that's my best answer for that is, how you keep those same disciplines, both with innovation and the operational discipline side, how you keep them intact, but be supportive and create an environment where people feel safe. They feel okay to make a mistake. That is the part that keeps innovation alive within that framework, I think.
Right. I mean, I've heard so many other leaders say fail fast, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to be allowed to fail if you're going to fail fast, because that's the quickest way to innovation, to actually, you know, um,
It's so funny. So I was having a conversation this morning, and one of our business development guys, I told him, I was like, we have to get better at understanding when a customer is ready for one of our solutions. Like, you'll know pretty quick if you ask the right questions if they're not. So I'm basically saying fail fast, like,
yeah.
just qualify fast. And he's like, I have never heard that. I've always heard push harder. I'm like, no, no.
No, it's like, 'cause you wanna know if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work, and that's okay. Don't
Just
keep,
get better.
beating a dead horse. So, like, it's if it's not gonna work, let it go, move on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're fooling ourselves and them if it's not the right time or it's not the right solution, or in most cases, they're just not in a place where they can make that decision. There's
yeah,
some other priority, and that's okay. We just need to understand that and then move on. So it's the same concept of fail fast, but my know better, like,
mhm,
know more, ask the right questions, and we'll know the right path to take. We'll just come back at a different time.
right. Well, yeah, 'cause, I mean, failure is so informative. I mean, it gives you so much information. You learn a lot from failure, and so it's not a bad thing. You just have to know that, to learn the lesson and move
Right,
forward.
right,
Yeah.
100%.
So, with clean energy incentives being pulled back, permitting loosened, and regulation rollbacks underway, where do you see the most realistic opportunities for organizations to make meaningful progress in performance, reliability, and cost over the next 5 years, especially given the less certain policy environment?
Yeah, I think, as we talked about before, there's so many things being thrown at people, and then the reduction on incentives is yet another. But then this concern around reliability of energy is also there. And then there at the same time, new technologies coming out. So I think it is confusing. I think people should rely on when they're looking inward at some of these energy issues is demand side reduction is always a good answer. I mean, if there's a way that you can use less, even with what you have, let's figure that out. And most people don't realize, but whenever they build a building and it might be only 15 years old, which is young for buildings, especially in North America, there's probably still incredible demand side reduction that can be done. From those control sequences that were done on day one, those have been stagnant for 15 years. Your loads have changed, your use of space has changed. So even like very simple things in terms of reprogramming can bring demand side reduction down. That's probably the easiest, most common thing is deferred maintenance list and looking at building kind of operations and understanding if you can reduce the demand side. The other is looking at like whatever new technologies are available. There's different technologies that do heat recovery if you generate a lot of heat naturally that might reduce you from using a lot of energy that you didn't have to, that didn't exist maybe 15 years ago when you built that facility. So there's just some simple things that can be looked at up front that I think people should focus on. And certainly if there's a capital expenditure, any expansion or new facility, there's different ways to use your capital. I think that's another area that you could put that capital towards revenue producing assets or put it toward things that are more directly related to your mission, like student enrollment going up or patient satisfaction, or whatever that applies to that industry. That capital preservation is another. And then finally, there could be a way to monetize assets. One of the other popular solutions is a company like Optimum Energy could come in and look at a campus and say, what, we'll buy the plant from you, which gives a capital influx into the organization to use for some mission critical things. That's another option. So I think there are good things that can be done, even amidst all of the uncertainty and changes going on in the energy space. There's still some things that customers can action today. Again, is it the right time? Is it ready? And does it make sense? I mean, some quick evaluations up front is typically kind of like a service we provide to see if any of those make sense.
Okay. How often do you recommend organizations look or reassess their energy usage or their infrastructure for possible upgrades?
Yeah, I think every few years is probably it's a good exercise to do. Most companies would want to engage in some kind of a facility condition assessment that basically says, of my portfolio assets, here's kind of where they are. And that's understanding the age, the usage, how much time is left, you're planning for replacement, but also how is it consuming? How is it operating compared to benchmarks of like facilities in the same kind of weather patterns or geography? I think those are good analysis to understand because it tells you what the opportunity is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always best if there is an opportunity that you're marrying it with something that, again, something else that you're trying to do. So it's not just about energy, right? It never is.
Right.
It's energy is a component like energy savings or, it's giving to operational savings or you're taking care of some deferred maintenance items, things that you've been band-aiding for decades anyway. When you marry all those things together, it usually makes for a project that can make sense for the organization. So, every few years, understanding and updating that facility condition assessment, the understanding of where your assets are and the spend is probably a good rule of thumb.
Things, change so quickly. Technology or something like COVID comes in, and I'm sure there was a huge, impact there because people aren't using the space the same at all. And they're still not because people are hybrid now, work from home, things have shifted. And there's a repurposing of a lot of facilities, I think. How do you see energy as a service shaping the way organizations approach their infrastructure?
It's a really powerful tool that clients can use. And the first step, though, is understanding kind of where you are. And where you are in terms of a baseline of how do you compare against some of those key operational metrics. What's the condition of your assets in the facility, those HVAC assets? How does that operational kind of performance compare to some of the like facilities in similar geographies like I talked about before? And then marry that with what are you trying to do? Like, are we expanding a campus because we're trying to to generate either like more production, or we're expanding a healthcare institution, or if you're a higher ed institution, maybe you want to offer some additional programs that drives student enrollment up. So those different new programs might need new facilities. So how do you look at all those things together of what you're trying to do from the future, and then what you have from a baseline perspective? And then how do you use the spin that you're going to make for the new expansion and taking care of that old facilities? How do you use that in the best way? That's a very common dilemma that higher ed institutions are doing right now, as well as healthcare. But like for a higher ed university, the list and dollar volume of deferred maintenance on campus is huge.
I can imagine,
So
right?
huge.
And they
So,
probably keep pushing it back. It's like something comes up and they push it back.
well, I mean, so you're going, okay, I have a bunch of old equipment. How does that help me get student enrollment up? It
You're
does.
right, exactly, right. It's not at the forefront. It's not
Yeah.
the most pressing, yeah,
And so
problem.
what is happening though is like we get the question of, hey, we are building this new thing because it's going to drive student enrollment. So how do I deal with the old stuff while I'm doing that?
Right.
The first thing we say is, before you build a new asset and need more energy, let's get the demand side as efficient as possible. And if you got deferred maintenance that needs to be abandoned or should be abandoned, let's try to take care of that and understand that from a baseline perspective. And then you add the new facility, and you don't have to generate that much more energy to fuel that new facility. And that makes sense. And then if there's a financial way that the university doesn't have to expend that capital and we could do it for them, like in owning that asset, that is a win-win all around.
Yeah.
So it's really looking at what's the base infrastructure, what we have, what are my future growth plans in 2 years, 5 years, and even 10, and then how do I come up with a solution that makes sense?
Right. Okay. So you're working with clients achieve their overall objectives and looking at their root pain points to see what they're
First.
really struggling with, and then creating a plan where and maybe it's not all at once, but just addressing the problems. Lisa, you've dedicated your career to helping others build more sustainable systems. What legacy do you hope to leave in the global energy landscape?
I would love to leave a legacy of creating an organization that had the most coveted, experienced experts in the industry, with a advanced technology platform that is second to none. I mean, we will be the global leader in providing energy solutions to our great customers in healthcare, higher ed, and manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way to accomplishing that goal. So, yeah, congratulations. It's exciting everything you're up to, and I really appreciate you sharing your journey and insights on how innovation and sustainability can truly coexist. For listeners who want to learn more about Optimum Energy or connect with you, what's the best way they can reach out?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Leanne, for this great conversation. But the best place to reach us is www.optimumenergyco.com.
All right. And to everyone tuning in, if today's conversation sparked an idea or inspired action, be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.